It was the morning of September 11th of 2001, as the sun stretched its rays over the Myanmar jungle. But for Joseph Slowinski, something truly horrific was about to unfold. In the humid cradle of Southeast Asia, under a timid sun, a group of scientists stirred from their sleep, their dreams echoing the whispers of the jungle around them. A quick breakfast and a swig of coffee later, then their day began in earnest. Their mission was simple, yet monumental: to explore Myanmar's diverse ecosystem, a biological treasure chest begging to be opened. The date was the same as that fateful day in the US, a day that would forever be etched in the annals of global history. The leader of the expedition, Joseph Slowinski, was a man of action, a herpetologist by trade but an explorer at heart. This was his 11th trip to Myanmar. He'd fallen in love with the country's vast biodiversity and was fascinated by the snakes, these slithering embodiments of danger, beauty, and grace. His passion, however, was about to take a deadly turn. Slowinski had grown up with a fervor for reptiles, an affinity that bewildered many. As a child, he swapped the allure of kittens for the thrill of catching small snakes and frogs. His curiosity untamed by the bite of the rattlesnake when he was just 15. This incident only deepened his fascination with venomous snakes, propelling him into a life dedicated to herpetology. Despite his meticulous, cautionary approach, Slowinski was always aware of the inherent risks of his profession. His love for the dangerous creatures never dwindled, not even when a spitting cobra almost blinded him a year earlier. His fascination was like a moth drawn to a flame, unaware that the same flame would soon consume him. Even after overcoming the challenges of organizing the expedition in September 2001, Slowinski faced further trials in the field. His quest to explore the diverse ecosystem of Myanmar had been a painstaking journey, not least because of the difficulty in securing funding. He'd been forced to piece together a budget from various sources after suspecting a fellow scientist of sabotaging his original financial support. When he finally assembled a multidisciplinary team of 10 academics, he made it clear to them, "This is probably going to be one of the hardest things you have ever done." The journey began later than anticipated due to these funding issues, leading them straight into the teeth of Myanmar's brutal rainy season. As they ventured deeper into the jungle, unrelenting monsoon seasons pummeled the dense canopy above them, the drops falling like relentless bullets. It seemed that the environment itself was against them, but they pressed on. Slowinski found himself juggling multiple roles. He was not only a scientist, but a leader, burdened with the responsibility of making his team and managing their limited resources. Despite the hefty sum that he'd allocated for supplies, scarcity was an unrelenting adversary. They had a local Burmese guide who helped navigate the challenging terrain, but every decision required Slowinski's approval. Promised support from the Myanmar government, 2 military doctors and a radiophone, was conspicuously absent. Yet despite these setbacks, the expedition set off. Their party was an eclectic mix of Slowinski's former students, other herpetologists, ornithologists, entomologists, and Burmese students. The latter were a part of Slowinski's aim to bolster local knowledge in DNA systematics and museum creation techniques, hoping to boost conservation efforts in Myanmar. Their journey took them deeper into the heart of the jungle, far from the comforts of civilization. Every day brought incessant rain, creating rivulets of mud that hindered their progress and made the already arduous task of trekking through the jungle even more challenging. Their goal was to ascend more than 10,000 feet, while cataloging a vast array of habitats along the way. Despite the hardships, the team remained committed. Every day was punctuated with the discovery of fascinating creatures, snakes, frogs, other forms of life, all meticulously documented and photographed by the expedition's resident photographer, and Slowinski's dear friend. As night fell, they would huddle together to discuss their daily findings, exchanging tales, fears, and aspirations under the glow of their campfire. However, the strain of leading the expedition was starting to show on Slowinski. A tropical biologist on the team, Mark Moffat, noticed a decline in Slowinski's usual enthusiasm. His movements were slower, his fingers trembled with the slightest exertion, and the spark in his eyes seems to have dimmed. The morning of September 11th dawned like any other. The camp was nestled at the base of a foggy jungle valley in a remote village called Ratba. Little did they know that, as the world was about to shake, so too would their expedition, but for entirely different reasons. At around 7 a.m., one of the Burmese field assistants approached Slowinski with a specimen bag with a seemingly innocuous snake enclosed within. The assistant insisted that it was harmless, yet within its slender body lay a deadly secret. Ignoring his usual safety procedures, Slowinski reached into the bag, his skin brushing against the snake's scales, and then he felt it, a slight nip. It was too late when he had realized his mistake. This snake was not any harmless species as assumed, but it was a deadly crate. His heart raced as his fingers traced the almost invisible bite marks, a cold shiver traversing his spine. He tried to laugh it off and enjoy his breakfast, but the tingling in his arm, a sinister reminder of the venom coursing through his veins, would not let him forget. As the day wore on, Slowinski began to succumb to the venom's effects. His speech was slurred, his eyelids were heavy, his jovial demeanor just evaporated, replaced by a grim acceptance of his fate. He assembled his team, explaining in meticulous detail the course the venom would take. With every passing minute, his predictions turned into chilling realities. By the time the assistants returned from their desperate call for help, the rainy season had declared its cruelty. The torrential downpour made it impossible for any helicopter rescue. Soldiers and doctors arrived, but the old respirator they brought was a mute piece of machinery. The clock was ticking, and Slowinski was fighting a losing battle. Put yourself in Joseph's shoes for a moment. You're in a foreign land, your body invaded by a deadly venom. You feel it crawling through your veins, freezing your blood. You're scared, sure, but there's a spark in you that refuses to go out. That is your hope, your will to live, whispering that you've still got a fighting chance. Can you feel your heart pounding, your palms sweating? This isn't just another scary story, it's the real, wild, raw danger of nature. Because when beasts attack, things get very real. Do you enjoy this type of content? If so, subscribe for more. Despite their dire circumstances, the team rallied around Slowinski. They breathed for him, his life hanging by a thread in their hands. Time, however, was a brutal adversary. On September 12th, Slowinski's breath hitched in his throat, his body shaking from the struggle of drawing in air. His complexion was ghostly. His eyes were glazing over with a sheen of sorrow and acceptance. Yet he squeezed the hands of his team members, a gesture that held a world of unspoken words within its palm. Even in his weakened state, he insisted on briefing his team of the anti-venom procedure, fighting the crushing heaviness that descended upon his chest. His voice, once strong and authoritative, wavered, his words stuttering as the venom continued its deadly dance within his blood. There were moments of deceptive calm when his pulse seemed steady and his breathing wasn't laborious. In these fleeting minutes, he would look out over the rain-soaked jungle, an overwhelming tranquility replacing his earlier panic. But then the spasms would return, jarring him back to the terrifying reality. The team worked around the clock, their faces haggard and filled with despair. The once vibrant campsite had morphed into a makeshift infirmary. The sound of the rain, once a peaceful lullaby, now pounded like the drumbeat of doom, continued its ethereal, eternal rhythm, indifferent to the human drama unfolding within its heart. Pythons slivered, frogs croaked. Unseen by the team, a crate slithered away into the undergrowth, leaving behind a trail of tragedy. As night fell on September 12th, Slowinski's battle took a turn for the worse. His heartbeat fluttered erratically, the once strong pulse fading away into a terrifying silence. His body convulsed, sweat pouring down his ashen face, his clenched fingers desperately clinging onto his life. His eyes, bright with intelligence and passion, began to dim, his gaze fixating on a point somewhere far beyond the confines of his tent. His lips moved slowly, uttering words that only he could hear, an unforeseen conversation with a world slipping away from his grasp. With the new day, the inevitable came. His chest, once heaving with the fight to survive, fell still. His eyes, a brilliant blue, stared blankly into the distance. The soft, early light painted his face with a peaceful glow, and his final breath was taken as the dawn broke. As word of Slowinski's death reached the rest of the world, this global scientific community mourned the loss of a daring explorer and a brilliant herpetologist. Unknowingly, his last expedition had come with a harrowing tale of passion, adventure, and a deadly dance with fate. Joseph Slowinski, a man whose love for reptiles had propelled him to great heights, met his end in the depths of the jungle of Myanmar, his life taken by the very creatures he dedicated his life to studying. In the words of his colleagues, he died doing what he loved, a sobering testament to the relentless pursuit of knowledge, even in the extreme face of danger. Today, his legacy still lives on, not only in numerous scientific contributions that he made, but also as a stark reminder of the dangers that come with exploration of the natural world. His story continues to inspire generations, serving as both a beacon and a warning to aspiring herpetologists. Always follow procedure. Always. On an unassuming morning, an explorer took his last breaths. his dreams echoing the whispers of the jungle around him. In the grand tapestry of life, September 11th, 2001 was both a beginning and an end. Like this video? Watch this one next.